Hello, family. My name is James Trice, and I'm the creator of a podcast called YANA, or You Are Not Alone. You Are Not Alone is a podcast for Black men. It is more than just a podcast. It's a lifeline and a brotherhood. We're here to create a supportive, judgment-free space where Black men can have real, open conversations about what truly matters to us, from family and relationships to community, sports, culture, politics, faith, sex, race, education, and the challenges of everyday life. We dive deep into it all. Whether you're looking for advice, motivation, prayer, or just the comfort of knowing you're not walking this journey alone. YANA is here for you. This is your space to connect, grow, and be heard, because none of us are meant to do life alone. Look for new episodes weekly wherever you get your podcasts. And look for me on Instagram at jbtrice123. Welcome to YANA. Grace and peace, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of YANA, YANA. You are not alone. YANA is a space for Black men to come together and talk uncensored about the issues that matter most to us. In a judgment-free environment, to talk about what we care about, talk about what impacts our lives, and it's intended to allow us to realize, or cause us to realize, that we don't walk this journey of life alone, because none of us are meant to do life alone. So welcome to this episode of YANA, and I thank you so much for joining us. Today's guest on YANA, we have a friend of mine, Tony Carter, and we're going to be talking with him today. So I want Tony, could you introduce yourself and say a little bit about you, what you want the audience to know about who Tony Carter is, and we're going to get right into the discussion.
Who am I? I am Tony Carter. And I always like to say I am St. Paul. Because of the simple fact that I was born St. Paul, raised in St. Paul, live in St. Paul. I worked for St. Paul. That was my career, working with the St. Paul Fire Department for 30 years. And with that, I say I am St. Paul. The home I live in, actually, my wife and I, was built by my grandfather over 100 years ago. And so we've got many generations that are part and residents here in St. Paul. So I'm proud of that, and that's who I am.
All right. So you say you was a firefighter. How long were you a firefighter, and what made you get into firefighting? What made you want to go that direction?
Okay, well, I spent 30 years on the St. Paul Fire Department, and it's an interesting story, really, actually, because the simple fact is, it all came as a pursuit of Christ. At one point, I took a test, and the people, had said, "Well, you can do anything you want to do. You can be a doctor, you can be a bricklayer." And I thought to myself, well, Christ was a healer. And so I wanted to pursue a career in medicine. So I enrolled at the University of Minnesota, was studying pre-med. And at one point in time, I took my daughter to a circus down at St. Paul Civic Center. She was about 2 years old at the time. And I seen a Black guy in a uniform. He told me he worked for the fire department and told me I could come on the fire department as a paramedic and get paid while I'm going to school, which fit me well because in fact I had a family. I'm going to school. I'm trying to work part-time, so I decided to pursue the fire department. So anyway, I decided to pursue the fire department because I could study as a paramedic and consider it to be independent study, for while I was in school. And I found out that you had to be a firefighter before you could become a paramedic. So I had to take the test for the fire department. and then I had to wait a couple of years to get hired because of the list in the process. And then after that, then I waited 3 years to go to paramedic school. So then I pursued that as a paramedic, and then I became a fire equipment operator driving the fire engine. Then I became a fire captain, and then in my last 10, 11 years on the department, I was assistant fire chief for the city of St. Paul.
Oh wow.
So,
Wow,
so
you rose all the way to assistant fire chief.
yes, sir.
Wow. So was your goal to be a paramedic? Is that what it is? Because you wanted to do medical? Is that what
Yes,
it is? That's what I thought
yeah,
I heard you say? Okay.
exactly. Yeah, because I was in school at the University of Minnesota studying pre-med, and
Okay.
I found out the opportunity to go to the St. Paul Fire Department to become a paramedic. So that was my intent, was to go to the paramedic school and acquire some independent study credits and go back to college and finish up a degree in medicine. But as in paramedic school, I found it to be interesting about people not really being accountable for their mistakes.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, well, if I did that, I'd be I'd be out. So I was disenchanted by the things I saw while going to school as a paramedic and
Hmm.
working in the operating room and working right alongside interns who were going to be doctors. So I
Hmm.
actually just stayed on the fire department instead of going back to school, but just decided I wasn't going to pursue the medical degree anymore. So,
Ah, ah. So
mm,
did you get opportunity to actually do any so while you were a firefighter, did you put out fires or did you do the medical piece of it, the
I did,
paramedic side of it?
actually, I did. There's one thing about my experience at the fire department is I did a little bit of everything. I did fighting fires. Like I said, I promoted to fire equipment operator where I drove the fire truck. I promoted to fire captain. I worked as a fire investigator, arson investigator.
Hmm.
Worked in the fire training division where I would train people on different equipment for the fire department. I worked as a dispatcher where we were in the 911 system and you dispatching engines and ambulance. And so I did almost fire prevention, did that.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
I did every aspect available on the fire department, up to and including assistant fire chief in charge of human services, where I would do the promotional testing, the entrance examinations, promotional examinations, conflict resolution, lawsuits, uh, everything had to do with human resources.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So, what made you get out? What ended your career with the fire department?
Um, I put in 30 years.
Okay.
Um, I reached a retirement age. Um, the system has a way of letting you know when it's time to go because you can earn uh, a certain percentage of your salary for every year you work. So if you do the calculations, if at that time it was 3% for every year, I worked 30 years, and so then I was at 90% of my salary. And at that time, they were about ready to the investments were doing well for
Mm-hmm.
the pension, and people were getting 10% raises. And at the time, I was in administration. We were on a year that the contract had not been negotiated, and we were talking about 0% raise. And so I just said, well, you balance it all out, and I'd be better off by retiring. I could still get paid and work, do something else. So that's what I
Okay.
did. And I've been
And
retired
so
20 years now.
for 20 years now, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So what did you go into after you left the fire department? What are you doing now? Because you said you started doing something else. What is that something else that you started doing?
Well, the first thing after I left the fire department, I started working with my son, We had a business called Frameworks Construction, so we were doing building and remodeling. And then after that, I used to be a truck driver before I went to school. Before I went to the University of Minnesota, I was a truck driver, over the road truck driver, local tandem gravel truck driver, drove tanker truck, drove hazardous materials endorsements. I had been doing that for 3 or 4 years before going to the university. So after I left working with my son in construction, his business, then I went back to truck driving for a little while with my brother. My brother and I were started truck driving together, and so then we wound up truck driving again, truck driving together again after I retired, and we started working together again. And so then I worked as a truck driver. When the new stadium, the U.S. Bank Stadium, was completed, I helped to build the stadium and haul out all the material and bring in stuff for building the stadium, the U.S. Bank Stadium, and then moved to the St. Croix Crossing Bridge, which was the new bridge that they put across the St. Croix River over by Stillwater. And then since then, I've been working basically full time with my wife, with on Beyond New and Beyond the Dance Network, with Beyond New Thrift Store and Beyond New Distribution, where we distribute this furniture.
Yeah, I can see the background. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Talk
yeah.
about that because I see
Okay.
the T-shirt. That's a nice T-shirt. Talk
Yeah.
about your wife's business and what you two do.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I said talk about the business. Talk about what your wife does and what is Beyond New. Talk about that. And
Okay.
I like the shirt.
Thank you so much. That's it's
That's beautiful.
product placement, as you call it. so,
Right.
uh, I'd say uh, 8 years ago, probably or so, that we decided that we were going to get rid of some extra clothing and stuff we had. You know, it was, and so we put together some bags and some tables and a barbecue pit and some people and some music, and we went down on the corner by Dorothy Day and started distributing out T-shirts and jeans and food, hamburgers and hot dogs, and ministering with Pastor Paul and Psalmist Evelyn Matubi. And we had other members of our Beyond the Dance organization to distribute clothing to the people who are homeless out there in the corner on Dorothy Day. So
Oh,
we
that's
took
beautiful.
pictures of that, and we put that on Facebook, and people saw it and they decided we want to start contributing. And so it took on a life of its own, and we started receiving donations from people, and then we moved into receiving furniture donations, and so now we try to help people who are in need of furniture, clothing, uh, don't have a lot of money. We help people who are coming out of prison, and we help them to get suits or dresses to be able to do interviews for jobs when they're getting interviews with through there's an organization in Minneapolis, Powerful People, have a program called REAP. It's a employment entry program. So we load up a bunch of clothing and take it over there and dress people. You know,
Wow.
give them new suits and dresses and things, and they get to pick out what they want, and then there's quite a bit of satisfaction with that because the continence of them, this changes completely. You know, some of the guys have never had a suit. If you ask them, well, what size do you wear? I have no idea. I've never had a suit. So So we fit them and we treat them like they were going to Nordstrom's. You know, treat them with dignity and respect and love, and you know, so it's very rewarding.
Wow. So, bro, you've done a lot. You're multi-talented, very smart, bright, brilliant young man. I'm going to continue to call you young man.
Thank you.
And have done a lot of great things and doing some great things. You and your wife. That is wonderful. So, of all of these things that you have done, firefighting, paramedic, in the medical field, truck driving, construction, now working with your wife in this wonderful, wonderful mission that you all are on. It's incredible. What are you most passionate about?
Well, I'd say what we're doing right now, what we're doing right now is helping people who need help. No,
Mm,
we're going what we say beyond. We're going beyond. We're going beyond what people need. You know, we're giving them love. We're giving them respect. We're giving them hope. We're giving them things they need. You know,
mm,
clothing and household goods and bedding and you know everything that a person needs. You know that we are able to provide through the grace of God and the donations that people have provided to us to be able to pass on to people. So that is the most rewarding. You know,
mm.
see the smiles on people to, you know, see the kids who are receiving things, you know, because we have such a variety of things to offer people that you know kids might be uh, just some clothing or a hat, cap, purse, you know, you name it, and we have it available. So,
Wow,
you know, it's
that's incredible.
very rewarding.
Wow. So why do you like doing that? What about you um uh makes you enjoy doing that? Why do you like doing that? Why do you like serving people and helping people out? What is it? What causes you to want to do that?
Well, you know, that's a really good question because um, it's really it's really my walk with the Lord. You know that we need to love each other. We need to take care of each other. We need to look out for each other. And so you know, it's part of the, like I say, one of the greatest commandments: love the Lord with all your heart, and with all your soul, and all your might, and love your neighbor as yourself. And love your neighbor. You know, so it's I mean, even like with our Beyond logo, we intentionally make these hearts to
Yes.
create the emblem that represents different aspects of love. You know, might be
Okay.
prosperity or health or just spiritual love, and so everything has a meaning reflected in it. And going beyond is just you know what we should all be doing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you know, it's a growth period. It came naturally. It wasn't something that I you know, to say, oh, this is what I'm going to do, you know. But in the process of doing it, I found out that it's very rewarding, you know. So keep doing it. So
Wow, wow. That's good. That's good.
yeah.
What concerns you right now? All of the things that you have done and are doing now, and you seem like you really really enjoy what it is you do, and you are deeply rewarded by doing this. Right now, what concerns you most, uh, personally and in our society? What concerns you most as a black man?
Well, unfortunately, I see what even when it comes to youth, I'm gonna start with youth first because of the moral decay of society. You know, the online influences of behaviors that are just not the types of things that we had came up under it being normal, you know.
Mm,
So now everything that is abnormal, it started to become normal.
Hmm.
And those things are being, I would call it exacerbated by the online presence and the opportunity for people to just go on their phone and find almost anything that they want to find in the form of video and watch it, and it has influence on them. So then it brings in the moral decay of people because there's not a real standard of that we grew up with. So then when it comes to men, then we have it's a it's the love of money that we turn on each other, and we fight and we crawl over top of people instead of trying to help each other. We have a lack of trust for each other. We have a lack of love for each other. So if men would change their mind, change their attitude, and I love the name of your program. You Are Not Alone. See, because everybody feels like they're alone. So everybody, they got to do it on their own. So then that way, I can't really share with you because I got to get mine. I can't really help you because I got to get ahead. See, well, so with the society and that, then everybody's fighting to get ahead instead of pulling and joining together to get ahead. So if you trusted me, then you and I could be more successful because there's two of us, two or more. Like I said, how can we walk together unless we agree? So we got two people who agree that we're going to make a difference, whatever it is. Whether you want to go in business together, you want to invest together, you want to buy property together, you want to work together, you're not alone, and you're able to accomplish more. But the problem is trusting each other. Everybody's looking out for themselves instead of being productive with working with each other. Some cultures have an example of working together. They work together, they build together, they join together, they support each other, families and extended families, and they build wealth together like that. And so for us, we're all independent. We're independent operators. We're all just trying to shake and move and do our own thing instead of trying to come together because we don't trust each other. And we've demonstrated the purpose or the reason why we don't trust each other. Because we're always, not always, but there's a tendency to undermine each other. And so we've seen that. The old crab in the barrel mentality is a statement, a slogan that we can relate to because we see it all the time. So until we change that mentality and we decide that we want to join together and we're going to trust each other, then we'll be able to build together.
How do we begin to do that though? What needs to happen within each one of us in order for that to happen? Because change begins with ourselves individually instead of outwardly, right? So what needs to happen within each and every one of us individually to get to the point where you're talking about, when we begin to trust and build with each other and work with each other to see our whole community advance. What do we need to do?
Hey, first place we start is with our own character. So that you cannot trust a person who's shady. You're not going to trust it. So you build character, you build integrity, you build dependability, you show yourself trustworthy.
How do we do that though? How do we build trust? How do we become that?
Okay, well, first, we're in relationships. We're going to be in a relationship. And every time you say, I'm going to be there, you show up.
Okay.
You know, when you say, okay, yeah, you got my help, I'll help you. You show up. You say, okay, well, we'll meet at 3:00. You know, you show up. You know, you don't want to you want to get to a point where you're dependable. So they said, well, James said he's going to be there.
Being a
And
man of our word.
you're a man of your word. Yeah, I can
Yes.
trust you. I can trust that you're going to be there. I can trust you that, you know, with this money that you're going to be, have integrity, and and that you're not going to be, you know, skimming, you know, money.
Right. Right.
So, you know, sometimes we got to start real low, real small, you know. So it might be, say, for instance, like, let's just say you and I. You say we want to do something, and it's going to cost us. I'll pick a number, $1,000, which $1,000 is a significant amount of money, but it's not overly significant. It's not $10,000, right? So we say, okay, we're going to do something. We're each going to put in $1,000, however many there is, just if there's two, and we're going to do whatever it is we're going to do to utilize this money to either make more money or to make a difference. See, because it depends on what you want to do. You want to make a difference, then you might be spending the money to make a difference. If you want to increase, then you might be using the money to generate more money, which is okay too. But as long as the purpose is to make a difference, then we're gonna, you know, then other people will see. They say, hey, you know, I wanna do something with you guys. I see what you're doing. I want to join in with you. And now we
Mm-hmm.
become five. There's five of us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have more people to be able to do bigger and better things. And we can either generate more revenue, or we can bring in more resources together. And
Right.
resources don't always have to be money. It can be tools, equipment, uh, trucks, whatever it is we come up with, whatever we want to do. When we join
Mm-hmm.
together and put all of our resources together, then we're more powerful together. But I
Right.
can only do so much by myself. I can't lift, you know, by myself, something that you and I can lift together.
Right.
You know, so if we want to do something, we're just better off together. But
Right.
that integrity is the most important thing. Your character, and when your reputation. One of the things that we grew up with says, you got your reputation, your name is the most important thing you have, and there's nothing really changed about that. You know, except for in our mind, we're looking at what a person has. Now, that's the reputation. Well, how much you got? What they got? Oh, I want to be like them. But you know, you don't know what they went through, or how they acquired what they acquired. You may not
Right.
want to go through, or you may not want to find yourself. Uh, if you're cheating people
Mm-hmm.
to get ahead,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a reputation. You know,
Right.
you can be in business, but you're a cheat. You know, you make a lot of money, but can't nobody trust you. So
Right.
it's all character. Uh, Character and integrity are, to me, one of the most important aspects of being successful and working together.
Wow. So, let me ask you. We got a few minutes here. Um, what prevents that from happening, though? Right. And I want to get at that piece. What prevents that from happening? What prevents us from doing that? Because it sounds easy, but not evidently not enough of us are doing it. What prevents us from coming together as one?
Well, it's a simple answer. It's really a simple answer. Is nobody is taking the initiative to do it.
Hmm.
We can talk about it. We can describe it. We can identify it. But until you and I decide, okay, well, let's do this. Let's start. Let's come together. Let's join together. Let's start, with a couple, two, three people, and decided instead of just being a social gathering where we're just checking in with each other and say, hey, how you doing? We just thought, well, we have lunch here, or we're gonna have breakfast together, or blah blah blah. But we really come up with an agenda and say, okay, let's do something. Let's think about it. Let's join together, brainstorm together, see what we want to do, what we can do,
Mm-hmm.
where we can make a difference in our community, that we can set an example, and that other people will see and they say, hey, I want to be a part of that. You got to start. If there's
Right.
if there's no start, like I say, how do you do a marathon? You got to start.
You got to start
Start
somewhere. That's
out.
right.
Yeah.
So
So
let me ask this then.
okay.
How do you then see the future for black men? How do you see the future for black men? What do you see as our future?
Okay. I tell you, it's not only unfortunately, I have to speak to the whole, not just the men,
Mm-hmm.
but a whole being, the men, the women, the children,
Mm-hmm.
that I thought to myself back when I'm like 20 years old. I'll be 75 this month.
All right.
But back 55 years ago, when I'm seeing what's going on. I'm coming up in the 60s and I'm seeing social change, and I'm seeing, doors opening, and I'm seeing, uh, all the changes that were taking place through the 60s and into the 70s. And I said to myself then that if we don't get it together, by the time my children's generation uh, come up, then we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be lost forever. This is what I felt. Now, my children's generation is here right now. Those are my grandchildren. And right now, the opportunities for them are less than they were for us. So it's even more important. They have less. They have less. They have, all the businesses, they're not offering you a pension anymore. You have no, you're running from paycheck to paycheck, job to job, just trying to make ends meet. You know, the home percent, home ownership is down, and now they're trying to change it so that you can't even find a single family home. You got to you got to be in an apartment somewhere, or a condo, or you can't have a yard. They changed the law in St. Paul where all new dwellings would be multiple family dwellings. So
Okay.
yeah, so the stability of a family is even changing today. So everything that has been in the past is a little bit less today because, like I say, pensions, the 401k plan, you're trying to save, you can't hardly save enough money to retire on, and
Okay.
then when people, they start with the 401k or the independent, the IRA, and then
IRA. Yes.
uh, then they run into a financial crisis, and it's, oh, I got to cash out, some of my IRA or some of my 401, and then so then you're never really able to accumulate what you need to be able to retire, and
Okay.
at an old age. So you need to be able to uh, make a difference. Everybody's got to, make a difference in that scenario. But in other words, is going backwards.
So again, what do you see as the future? Is it bleak for you? Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic? Pessimistic?
Well, I have to be optimistic. I have to be optimistic. I have to be, that a person like yourself or a person like myself will get an opportunity to come into a young person's life and give them some advice and to tell them, hey, savings, you're saving your money. Don't spend everything you have. When we came up, it was like we were getting slogans like "Don't put all your eggs in one basket." Don't count your chickens before they hatch. But everybody today is like you spend it as you get it, or you don't have it and you spend it before you get it. And then if you get a little bit, then you want to get a whole bunch more because you want to look like you got a lot.
Yes, you want to front.
So
They
yeah,
call that fronting. Yes.
so you want to spend all your money, a car, today, 30, 40, $50,000 for, just a car, whereas before 30, 40, $50,000, you could buy a house, so,
Right. Right.
so everybody tries to be a little bit bigger, you might have an apartment, but then you got $50,000 Benz or,
Okay.
so
We got I apologize for cutting you off because we got just like 2 minutes left. Actually, we went overtime, but I do want to ask you this question
all right, go right ahead.
before we end. So for the men or whoever's listening to us right now, what message would you like to leave before we close out this conversation today? What final words would you like to say to individuals, particularly Black men who are listening to us right now?
That's easy. Love. Love is the key word. We love each other. We love ourselves. And we love each other. We share love. We show love. It's that easy. Love makes a difference. But it says love never fails. See, so when we do walk in love, show love, treat each other with love, it makes a difference. It's the bottom line. If anything's to be learned, it's to love one another. Just like the word says. Love your neighbor as yourself. And if I love you and you love me, then we can do things together. We can come together. We can enjoy life together because the simple fact is that we're building relationships and we're getting experiences that are based under friendship and love and joy and prosperity and productiveness and strength. So
yes.
that's the bottom line.
Okay. All right, brother. Thank you so much, Tony. We're going to have you come back as well. I really appreciate you joining us today for this episode of YANA. And thank you, everyone, for joining in, tuning in to this episode of You Are Not Alone, YANA. And I ask that you would go on my YouTube page, YANA, James Trice, like, subscribe, follow, and share. Also, and you can also see new episodes of YANA every Thursday on YouTube. And you can hear audio versions of YANA on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you so much for joining us. And remember that we are not meant to do life alone. Thank you. See you next time. Grace and peace. YANA is here for you. This is your space to connect, grow, and be heard because none of us are meant to do life alone.